So now I'm going to kind of walk you through my own thought process. I've looked at this a little bit, but you're going to get kind of the raw deal. Um, I'm still figuring this one out for myself. So it says in a paragraph, summarize your findings. How is the word used in quotes? What is the tone? What topics come up a lot? What insights do your quotes give about the word? What does the definition teach you? Synonyms and antonyms. So I look at mine, and the first three quotes, I believe that we are solely responsible for our choices, and we have to accept the consequences of every deed, word, and thought throughout our life. So kind of in this case, I see a lot about choice in this quote, and accepting, I guess, what follows. And then this next one, everybody soon or late sits down to a banquet of consequences. And banquet kind of sticks out to me as a happy thing, and a lot of consequences maybe. So everyone will sit down, and when you talk about banquet, you're eating. So that's kind of interesting way of looking at consequences. Everyone has to make their own decisions. I still believe in that. You just have to be able to accept the consequences without complaining. And so this is more about, I guess, a reaction to the consequences. So it seems like this is the responsibility that we have for our consequences and to accept the consequences. Or sorry, the responsibility of our choices and to accept the consequences. And then this one is about a lot like there will be consequences. No one can escape that. And there will be a lot of consequences, and we will have to accept those consequences. And this one is kind of saying everyone has a right to make a decision, they just don't have a right to complain about the results of that decision. So that would be maybe the start of my paragraph, because it's kind of saying how is the word used in quotes, what is the tone, what topics come up a lot. I'm going to say in my quotes some major ideas that came up had to do with, let's see, how consequences, I guess it's more, let's see, the relationship between choices, the consequences, and our reaction to those consequences. The first quote says that we will have choice and consequence. Oh, and it kind of says that we're solely responsible, that we alone are responsible. Similar, so I'm going to say for our choices and consequences, which gives a pretty serious tone. The third quote is similar because it talks about how we all make decisions, but we can't complain about the consequences, which again is very serious. The second quote is a little bit different. So I guess that's kind of what I got out of these three quotes. Consequence can be used in a number of ways, but is usually serious and related to our choices. Consequences are also unavoidable. I guess maybe that's what they're trying to say. Perhaps that is the general message. People think they can avoid consequences, but they can't. And I really didn't, let's talk about definition, a result or effect of an action or a condition. We have, that's pretty cold, and these didn't really talk about a condition, these just talked about of an action, so that's something new. Synonyms: result, upshot, outcome, effect, repercussion, ramification, corollary. And you might want to keep this in the same paragraph, but I have a lot for that first paragraph, so I'm going to go ahead and drop down to a new grouping of words and ideas. The definition teaches me that consequence is more than action, and that sometimes it is out of our control. It is due to a condition. Synonyms: upshot, outcome, effect, repercussion, ramification, aftermath, after effect. A lot of the synonyms are pretty serious and sometimes negative. And that is true, particularly, and I'm going to maybe give some examples. So I'm going to do a colon, ramification, aftermath. Makes me think of destruction. And then the antonyms: origin, source, beginning, commencement, inception, significance, rise, start. Oh, this is interesting. Unimportance and worthlessness. I'm not really sure what to do with that. So I think for the antonyms, I'm just going to put down, because I'm not getting much for these antonyms. Teach me that well, I guess it kind of points out the opposite, which is consequence is about the end. But we can't ignore the beginning. These two are very connected. Now I'm going to write, at least start to write the beginning of my connection paragraph, which is this next part. The second paragraph: connect your findings back to the text. And the text that I read was about the consequence of, or the skills required to manage your study time. In connection to the the choices that we need to I see kind of two connections, I guess. The choice that we make to use good techniques and study habits will come. Well, so it's not just use techniques, good techniques. It's use good techniques or not will come, whether we like it or not. Just like one day we will all sit down at the banquet of our consequences. We will, I guess, receive the rewards or lack thereof of our choices to study well. But I think the article is also talking about consequences in kind of a different way. They're talking about consequences as in rewards. So like the result of an action. So I'm going to point that out. This is pretty different from how the article used the word. In the article, consequences were natural effects. No, they weren't. They were rewards for good study behavior. We can create good rewards or consequences for ourselves in order to motivate ourselves. And that is my connection. I'm trying to think if there's anything else worth saying. No, I think that's pretty much it. If I were gonna include some of this information in my essay, I might just point out maybe I would say this is something that I would add to my article about study habits.